fire was crackling. The moon was full enough to read by. And none of us, not me, not the tents, not the trees around our clearing, cast a single shadow. I want you to picture that for a second. Not a horror movie shadow. No shadow at all. Like the world had reached down and erased the one part of us that was supposed to be permanent. That wasn't even the worst part of that night. The worst part came later, when the shadows finally came back, and there were more of them than there were of us. Here's what happened. 4 of us drove north for a stretch of forest that doesn't show up on hiking apps. Rowan, Thayer, Isolde, and me. Thayer found the place at 2 in the morning, scrolling some dead forestry blog. Hollow Basin. No name recognition, no crowds, no signal. That's the whole point, he said. Just us in the quiet. Rowan didn't love it. She's the one who reads the warnings instead of screenshotting them for later. She came anyway. She always came anyway. We stopped for gas 40 minutes out. The man behind the counter asked where we were headed, and when Thayer said Hollow Basin, something shifted in his face. Not fear. Recognition. Be gone before the second night, he said. And whatever you do, watch the ground around your fire. Thayer laughed it off. I didn't. Something about the way the man said ground, not fire, stuck in my chest the rest of the drive. By the time we reached the trailhead, the light was already dropping fast, and none of us said another word about the gas station. We just started walking. The basin itself looked staged, almost too perfect. Pines ringing a wide clearing, a creek along the east edge, moss so thick it swallowed our footsteps whole. We had the fire ring built and both tents up inside 40 minutes, moving fast, racing the dark. The ring itself was already there when we arrived. Stones fitted together with no gaps, no moss growing between them, while every other rock in the clearing was coated green. Old campers built things to last, Thayer said. Nobody answered him. We were too busy getting the fire going before full dark hit. That first fire threw long orange light across the whole clearing, and our shadows stretched out behind us exactly the way shadows should. I remember Thayer's shadow rising huge against the tree line when he stood for more wood. I remember thinking nothing of it. That detail matters more than anything else I'm about to tell you. That first night, we had shadows. I know we did. I watched them move. Second day, on the ridge above camp, Rowan stopped mid-stride and looked down. Where's my shadow? Full sun. Noon. Not a cloud anywhere. None of us had one. Not faint, not distorted. Gone like the ground had simply refused us. Nobody tried to explain it this time. We just turned around and started back down, faster than we climbed up, and none of us said why. We didn't make it back to camp before the next thing happened. Halfway down, Isolde grabbed my arm and pointed at the trail ahead. Someone was standing on the path below us, still, watching us descend. From that distance in that light, it looked exactly like Rowan. Rowan was standing next to me. The figure on the trail didn't move as we got closer. It didn't run. It simply wasn't there anymore by the time we reached the spot. No footprints leading off the trail in either direction, like it had been lifted straight up. Nobody spoke the entire rest of the way down. That night, I woke to slow, deliberate footsteps circling the tents, crushing the moss in a wet, heavy rhythm. I unzipped the flap just enough to see the dying fire, and a shape standing at the tree line wearing Isolde's jacket, her exact posture, watching our tents with a stillness no half-asleep person has. I turned to wake the real Isolde. She was already beside me, asleep, breathing slow and even. I looked back outside. The tree line was empty. I didn't sleep again. And when I told the others at dawn, I expected doubt. Instead, Thayer went pale. I saw someone at the creek last night, too, he said. I thought it was Rowan checking the filter. Rowan hadn't left her tent once. We should have packed up right then. We didn't. It was Isolde, quiet, careful Isolde, who wanted one more day to understand what we were looking at before we ran from it blind. In daylight, with coffee in our hands, that logic almost made sense. It stopped making sense the second the sun started dropping again. The final night, we didn't split into two tents. We dragged both into one clearing and sat back to back around the fire, taking turns on watch. Around midnight, the temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged mid-sentence. No wind, no warning, just cold, arriving all at once like something nearby had exhaled. Then, one by one, our shadows came back. For days of nothing beneath us but bare ground. And suddenly we were cast long and dark against the tent walls again, exactly the way shadows behave. Rowan actually laughed, short and relieved, like the worst of it had passed. That's when Thayer stood up, staring past the fire, and said the 4 words that ended the trip. There's more of us. 8 shapes at the tree line, 4 of us by the fire, and 4 more standing motionless at the edge of the trees, wearing our faces exactly, casting no shadows of their own. Watching the ones who did. They don't have shadows, Isolde said, voice flat with the kind of calm that only shows up right before panic. Because we do. They're not copying us. They're waiting to trade. The one wearing Thayer's face tilted its head at an angle no human neck allows and stepped out of the trees. We ran along the creek, away from the trail, because the trail led straight past them. Roots tore at our boots in the dark. Rowan's hand gripped my sleeve hard enough to bruise. Isolde screamed at us not to look back. Thayer was right behind me at the second bend. Then he wasn't. No scream. No struggle. Just his voice calling out once. Confused. Almost polite, like he'd stopped mid-stride to ask a question. And then the sound of the creek was the only voice left. I turned. The path behind me was empty. Not chaotic empty. Undisturbed empty, like no one had ever been running there at all. I screamed his name until Rowan pulled me forward by the collar. And even then, some part of me kept listening for an answer that never came. There were 3 of us at the car. Rangers searched the basin for 6 days. No trace of Thayer. No gear, no struggle, no 4th set of footprints anywhere in the mud, as if the forest had simply corrected an error and smoothed the ground back over. Rowan doesn't talk about that trip anymore. Isolde moved across the country and stopped answering anything that mentions the basin by name. I still think about the gas station, about the man who told us to watch the ground around our fire. He wasn't warning us about the fire. He was warning us about what would eventually be standing in it, wearing one of our faces, waiting for its shadow to become real. Some nights, when the light hits just wrong, I look down at the floor beneath my feet, and for half a second, my shadow is a beat too slow to follow me. If a story like this kept you up a little later than you planned, subscribe to the Forgotten Campsite. There's another one waiting in the dark next week.